So let's get started with today. And today we're going to start with the breathing as usual. And when we come to the end of the month, which is we actually have one more week, but this Thursday is officially the end of this month. And so, well, the last Thursday, because next week is the beginning of April, right? Yeah. And so today I'm going to offer you the possibility to choose any breathing technique you would like. So that could be the breath awareness, so just simply sitting, noticing your breath, perhaps counting to 4 on the inhalation or the exhalation. You could lie down for the diaphragmatic breathing, same thing, bending your knees, just noticing your breathing. Also counting to 4 or to 5. And then the other one is the alternate nose breathing. So remember, inhaling for 5, retaining, exhaling for 5, inhaling and exhaling. So whichever you feel like doing, we're going to be with this breathing and focusing on the breath for 5 minutes. So whichever you feel like doing or your body feels like doing at this moment. Okay, so whatever you feel like, I won't be counting or anything. I'll just leave you to choose what you feel like doing. Just slowly take your last few breaths. And open your eyes. Okay, so hope you're feeling more relaxed and focused on your breath. So today the focus is actually on the kidney and the urinary bladder meridians, and both of them are actually on the back part of the body. And so what happens is when we stimulate the spine, so when we do forward bends or backward bends, we are stimulating those meridians, and this really nourishes the spine. And basically what we're doing is we are providing oiling basically for the body and specifically for the spine. So we're going to be doing a lot of those forward and backward bends. So I hope you enjoy it. I will be explaining where the meridians are as we go along. But for the moment, let's come directly to the Sphinx. So lying on your stomach. Okay, so lying on the stomach, remember your options. You can lean your chin on your head, your elbows in front of your shoulders, and remember the other option, you can have your elbows under your shoulders. Okay, so these are all the options with the Sphinx. And we're going to be here for 5 minutes, as usual. So this is a nice way just to start focusing on the meridian that we're going to be talking about today. So the main one is the kidney. So as I explained in the email, the kidney is basically responsible for regulating the water in our body. And of course, that is so important for everything in our body, specifically, for example, the blood and the bones even. They need that water. And so what we are doing specifically now, we are compressing the lower back. And the lower back is actually exactly where the kidneys are. So the kidneys are regarded by Chinese traditional medicine as really important for this energy that we have in our body. And particularly with the kidney, often if we have issues, problems with our lower back, it could be connected with functions of the kidney that are not functioning properly. And of course, once again, opening up the chest. We are making it easier for the diaphragm to work more efficiently. And while here, we can also notice the movement of your breath, the movement of your abdomen against the mat. So basically today, by doing a sequence where we are focusing on the spine, we actually are nourishing the kidney. We are helping it to work efficiently. So now bring yourself down onto your hands. And if you like, bend your left or your right knee, whichever you feel you want to start with. And let's just relax here for a minute on each side. Relax your arms, your shoulders, and your head. Now slowly bend that leg and turn your head to the other side and bend the other leg if you like. Now straighten that leg and slowly push yourself into a seated position. Okay, so from here, we're going to move on to the full saddle. So what I would suggest to you is, if you find the saddle impossible, then do the half saddle and always doing adaptations. So let me show you first the saddle and then the half saddle. So the saddle we can do either by sitting on our feet or sitting in between our feet. Yeah, if you find it comfortable, you can stay on your feet with your hands here, or remember, you can sit up on a block. Okay, so for some of you, just sitting like this is enough. Remember, you need to feel a stretch in the quads. If you feel a stretch there, then you can just stay in this position for the whole 5 minutes. If you feel nothing, what you can do is you can bring yourself a little bit back, like this. So that's the first option. Remember, I'm just showing you the saddle, then I'm going to show you half saddle. And then otherwise, if that is comfortable for you, you're going to put a bolster behind you, and you can slowly, and it's very important to go slowly here. because this is actually quite a compression for what they call the sacral lumbar area. So we really need to go very carefully if we're going to go down. We can stay here, or you can allow your head to drop like this. And then when you, or if you feel comfortable, you can eventually come back onto the bolster. And this is fantastic if it's comfortable for you. If you feel a nice stretch here and you don't feel an uncomfortable sensation in your back, then go for it. If this is not possible for you, then you're going to either stay in this position or sitting on a block, or you could do half a saddle and then after 2.5 minutes change. So remember, half a saddle, you start like this and you go back, right? And then you change after 2.5 minutes. So I will indicate, I will say, okay, if you're doing half a saddle, do it now. Yeah, change. Okay, so make up your mind which one you want to do. The saddle is an amazing pose to try, because especially if you are a walker or a runner, it really helps to stretch the quads. And also the ligaments in the front of the knee. If you're feeling it on the side, you shouldn't be feeling it, and then you need to adapt. Okay, so I see some of you have chosen the half saddle. Okay, so I'm going to indicate after 2.5 minutes which, that you should change, yeah, just to remind you. So if you've chosen the full saddle, you're either sitting like this or you're sitting on your block. And if you notice that the stretch, after a while there isn't a stretch, you can start to move yourself a little back. Yeah, so the most important thing is always, and very, very important, always listening to your body. Don't try to push yourself before your body is relaxed. Particularly because this is quite an intense pose and the joints of the knees are involved, so we don't want to affect the joints of the knees. Okay, so just coming into, just finding your limit. And remembering here, we're continuing to work to stimulate the back of the body, but at the same time, of course, we're opening up the front of the body. So we're working, as I mentioned before, your knees, but also the tops of your feet and your ankles and your toes as well. And then as we move back, of course, we're opening up the body. And if we drop your head back, you're stimulating your spine. Sorry, of course you're stimulating your spine, but you're stimulating your thyroid. I wouldn't recommend staying for a long time, but if you want to, just try perhaps for a minute. Remember, if you think about it, when we are working at the desk, our head is always forward. And what happens when the head is always forward? The muscles on the back actually get shorter because they become constricted. They aren't being worked. And so if we do this, we are actually relaxing them and helping them to just have a basic counterbalance. So that's a really nice thing to do. So I would say do it for a minute, and then after a minute, come back. And then if you have a bolster and you want to experiment coming down a little bit, so hold onto your feet, allow your head to hang down, check in with your quadriceps and your knees. And you should change now. If you are doing the half saddle, you should change to the other side. And slowly coming down if you're doing the saddle, the full saddle. Otherwise, if you're sitting up, just stay sitting up. And here it's really important to focus on the sensations in your body. As I said, this is an intense pose. When we do this in other types of practice, in yoga practice, we don't hold this pose for normally longer than 5 breaths, 5 seconds. And so when we hold it for longer, it's really important that we are working within our limits. And the best way to know about that is that we feel a stretch in the target area, which is, as I mentioned, from your toes up to the quadriceps, and we also feel it in the hip flexors, which are the muscles between the pelvis and the legs. So really important to be aware and conscious of how we feel. Because the joints are where we are most stressing the connective tissue, but the joints are very fragile, particularly the joints of the knees and the shoulder. So we really need to be careful when we are doing poses that involve them. And now slowly, if you are lying down, push yourself up and slowly straighten your legs. And we're going to lie on our back as a nice counter posture. If you feel like groaning, if you feel the need to groan, please do so. It's a nice thing to do. When you lie down and you feel, you can really feel now, or you should really be able to feel the sensations that could go from your toes to the top of your feet, to your ankles, to your knees, up the quadriceps, to the hip flexors. It feels like a really nice stretch. You shouldn't be feeling any twinging or tingling pain. If you do feel any pain, you have moved too far too quickly. So just be conscious of that. Be conscious that perhaps you have been too aggressive. And so take it slowly for the rest of the practice. Okay, so we're going to rock ourselves upwards, and I'm going to propose, for those of you who find it comfortable with Sphinx, we're going to explore another, a variation on Sphinx. It's called Seal. But for those of you who don't find Sphinx comfortable, then just go to your normal position where you will be lying on your stomach and leaning on your hands like this, or leaning like this. Okay. If this is where you're going to be, please continue like this. If you find the Sphinx accessible, I'm going to propose a different one, which is called Seal. And Seal basically means bringing your arms in front of you and lifting yourself up like this. As you can see, there's quite a lot of compression on the lower back. So what I would suggest is, if you try it for a few minutes and see how it goes. If you start to feel any uncomfortable sensation, then please move down. But this is one of the poses that we do in yin, so I want to introduce it to you, and those of you who find it comfortable with the Sphinx, try to experiment with it and see how it goes. Some people find this very nice, others find it terrible. What I would encourage you to do when you do it is really concentrate on relaxing your back and feeling your chest and your abdomen stretching. There's a real stretch there. Don't force it. Just stay and just notice. Remember, you can have your legs open or your legs closed. Yeah, so if you're wondering, I can see Sarah's looking up at me. If you're wondering where you put your arms, I suggest putting your arms slightly to the side, so not straight in front, because if it's straight in front, the compression is the greatest. So if you put them out slightly to the side, then that should be accessible for you. So here we're just going to stay for 3 minutes, because this is the first time we're doing the Seal. So we just have about 20 seconds to go. Okay, and now slowly coming down and once again repeating what we had done before, bending the one leg and just noticing how you feel the second time round if you did the Seal. Just the feelings in your lower back. Did it feel too intense? Did it feel interesting? Is it something you'd like to repeat? And now bend that leg and bend the other leg. Okay, so let's straighten that leg and then push ourselves into a seated position. And from here, we're going to move directly into the straddle. And before we go into the straddle, I'm going to show you the reason why we do the straddle. And one of the reasons, apart from working on the inner groin, is because actually when we work on the inner groin area, we're actually working the kidney meridian as well. So the meridian of the kidney starts with a small toe, and then it goes behind the leg, and then it comes to the inner part of the groin. So when we are moving forward, we are actually stimulating the kidney groin as well, because the kidney groin goes into basically the reproductive organs, the genitals, and then up into the kidneys. And so remember, with the straddle, we can sit on a bolster and open the legs. Okay, so remember what I mentioned before. Nice to have the bones relaxed, because if the bones are relaxed, we can then get into the stretch. So some of you will feel the stretch in your hamstrings, so the below your legs, the area at the back of your legs. Others of you will feel it in the hamstrings. Okay, so wherever you are at the moment, basically coming forward. And coming forward to the position which is accessible to you. Okay, your head hanging. If you have a bolster or a block, you can rest your head on that bolster or the block. Once again, the back is rounded. Remember, we round the back to relax the ligaments along the back of the spine. And when we are doing this, we are also stimulating the kidney. Because if you think about it, the kidney is so closely located to the spine that any movement forward and back is going to affect it. So this is always a good time just to check in with your breath, and particularly with your mind. Remember, this is an introspective practice, and try to avoid the temptation of using the practice as a way to tick off the things you've done today and the things you need to do later and the things you need to do tomorrow. Because really what we need to do is to be focusing on letting go. Just letting go of things that are not in the present. So now we can do nothing about the past, we can do nothing about the future, both of which are concepts which don't exist now in our present. So let's just focus on the simple things like breathing, noticing our breathing. And relaxing. So now slowly bring yourself up with the head coming up last. And now we're going to move to the right side. So once again, staying up on a bolster if you need that. Otherwise, we're twisting to the right and slowly moving over the right leg. So just for those of you without the bolster, in this area, we are working on, we could feel more of a stretch in the hamstring area. So we twist to the right and we come over the leg. And once again, the back is rounded. Remember your leg, your feet are not flexed because we are trying to relax that area. We are trying to relax the leg, especially the back of the leg. So the back of the thigh where we have the hamstrings. Because remember, by relaxing that area, we are getting to that connective tissue. And so notice how your leg feels. Actually notice if you feel a stretch. And what I would like to encourage you to do is, if at any time during the practice you notice something that I encourage you to do and you don't feel anything, you don't feel a stretch, I would encourage you to mention it to me, to ask me about it, because I'm not in your body, I can't feel what you feel. So if you comment to me and you say, oh, I don't feel anything, then I can provide you with an alternative. But if you don't feel anything and you're just hanging out here for 5 minutes, that's very boring and not very useful for you, because with a slight movement of your leg or your hip or something, you could find that nice stretch. So don't be shy. If you don't want to talk in the video, in the Zoom call, then please send me a message. I have a few students that do that. So if you do notice something that you'd like to comment with me, you can send me an email, or you can say to me, I'd like to speak to you for 15 minutes before the next class. If you feel that you need to move out of the pose, I would encourage you just to lie down on your back and relax. Okay, so slowly moving out. And we're going to move directly to the other side. So bring your blocks across if you needed the blocks. And moving for 5 minutes onto this side. So as I said, if at any stage you feel you need to come out, then I would just encourage you to lie on your back, just so you can notice the effect of the pose, and also so you can continue with the mindful breathing. And notice why you need to come out of the pose. Do you feel pain somewhere? Do you feel nothing? If you feel nothing, it's because of compression in your body. There's a block in your body. It could be tissues, it could be bones, and because of those bones, you can't go any further. And so that's why I suggested you comment to me, so then I can suggest a way to go around those bones that are preventing you from feeling that stretch. So it's always a process of discovery and exploration with yin. And that is why we have the limited range of postures, because this allows us to discover which adaptation fits our body, and then we are empowered. So that when we do a class together, or when you want to do a sequence on your own, you know that by doing this pose in a certain way is what is good for your body, which may be different to the way Sarah does it, the way Charles does it, the way Simon does it, the way Carla does it, the way Jonathan does it. Everyone is unique. So we must always remember that, and keep in mind the focus on the stretch, which is the priority. Remember, we need time and patience. So we are gently compressing those areas and lubricating. It's like a car that hasn't been moved, a car that is rusty. It needs to be moved around in a gentle way. If you switch on a car and start going immediately, it often stalls. That's the same with a body. And particularly so, even more so, with yin. We need to go gently and mindfully and respectfully. Without judgment and without a sense of competition or feeling I want to get somewhere. if you want to get somewhere, one day it may come, and one day it may never come because of the structure of your bones. But with yin, you will always achieve some type of difference. You will notice some type of difference in flexibility and mobility. Because as I said, we're working with joints and connective tissue, which connect everything in our body together. Okay, so slowly coming up. Wow, that's lots of work on the back. And so let's come to a position of lying on your back. Just lying on your back and noticing. Noticing the legs. Perhaps the leg that we've just stretched, you feel the sensation more intensely. It feels warmer. And perhaps you also feel the back. And now if you move yourself up into a seated position, we're going to move into the caterpillar now, which is moving forward again. And once again, we can always sit up on a bolster and the legs are together or the legs are apart. And here, once again, we're also working once again on the hamstrings. And the legs are relaxed, the feet are relaxed. And I'm moving forward and resting my head on the block. So have fun wherever you are. Rounding the back. Remember, you can put the blocks underneath. You can place blocks underneath your thighs to relax. Yeah, Shal, if you remember that. And Simon. So you can experiment. You can experiment sitting up and having your legs like this and coming forward and noticing how it feels. Because basically we're trying to get the stretch on the back of your legs. So if you come forward like this and you feel a stretch, then you can stay with the coming forward with your blocks. But if you don't feel anything, it means that your hamstrings are still very tight. And so by putting the blocks underneath, you are helping to relax your bones, relax your hamstrings, and then it's easier to come forward. It's more accessible for you to get that stretch. Yeah, so don't be scared to experiment. Yeah, I'm not in your body. I can't feel how you're feeling. All I can do is I can give you suggestions. So Charles, I can't really see what you're doing with your legs. I can just see the top of your body. So if you just shift yeah, that's better. Yeah, now I can see. Okay. So if you've got your blocks underneath your thighs, okay, you can also bend your knees a bit more if that's comfortable. And then when you come forward, just feel, do you feel a stretch in the back of your thighs? Because that's the focus. You may feel it in the inner thighs. So just check on that, and then at the end of the class I'll ask you how that went for you, how that focus goes for you. And for Simon, I assume he's feeling it in his hamstrings because he's got the blocks in front of him. Yeah, so always just feel free to experiment, because that's how we find what works for us. In my yoga practice, I discovered lots of things by experimenting with myself, finding out what works best for me, and not just in yin, but in other practices. Because people can give you suggestions of ways to do things, but that might not work for you. And so my responsibility is to give you suggestions, to give you recommendations. And your responsibility is to explore, to discover. So don't be shy to do some crazy experiments. And perhaps when we start to focus on poses, we can see all the wild adaptations of poses that some people do, just so you're aware of how different the poses look depending on each person. Okay, so slowly taking the blocks away and the bolster away, if you have that. And we're going to do a bit of a back bending now, a bit of activation after all that forward bending. So bring your feet slightly wider than hip width apart. And what we're going to do is we're going to push ourselves up. So on the inhale, we push ourselves up, and the exhale, push ourselves down. I'll just show you, just to remind you. So we push up, head back, inhale, and push down on the exhale. Okay, so we're going to do that 3 times. And just as a challenge, on the last one, the third one, we're going to hold for 3 breaths. Okay, ready? And push up. Inhale and exhale. And inhale and exhale. And now the last one, we're going to hold for 3 breaths. And inhale. 1, 2, 3. And come down. Okay, so hopefully you feel nice and energized after that. And we're going to move to the last pair of movements, which is the twist. Ah, I can see Carla's smiling, so she really enjoyed that one. Okay, so we're going to do the twist, and as usual, for those of you who prefer to do the simple twist, remember we lie on the back and we just bring the knees down to the side, leaning onto the block. But I'm going to propose the twisted roots, which is slightly different, and we get more of a twist into the back. Okay, so let me just show you, just remind you of the first option. So then those of you who want to start with the simple option, you can start with that one. And I know with Charles we need to work on the twists. So let's just see how we can go with this one. So bringing your knees up towards your chest, and then simply allowing them to fall onto a block. And so with Charles, what I could suggest to you is to just create a little tower and see if you create a tower, if you can feel some type of slight twist, you can move your legs slightly to the side. Okay, so that's my proposal for Charles for the moment. And for the other, for those of you who want to do the twisted roots, so I'm lying on my back. Bring the left leg over the right, tuck it underneath, and bring the leg up towards me and allow it, shift my hip slightly to one side and then come down. Okay, so this is twisted roots. Okay, so for Carla and Sarah, I can see you both going to do this one. What I suggest you do, if you just watch me for a moment, there's a little move that perhaps is not very clear. When you bring your legs up, so I have my left leg on top of my right leg. When you bring your legs up, shift your hips slightly to the other side before you bring your legs down. Yeah, I don't know if you could see that. Because then it gives you a little bit more space. So if you're going towards the left, shift your hip slightly towards the right before you come down, because it gives you more space. Yeah, you can feel that it's not as intense. Okay, oh Charles, I can see your legs are going over to the side. That's amazing. Excellent. Okay, right, and so for those of you who are in the twisted roots, you can come right down onto the mat, or you can have your knees resting on a block, whichever feels comfortable for you. If you are with your knees on the mat or on the floor, you could notice initially quite an intense stretch across your shoulders. But don't be too worried about that, because often it's just a tension issue. I notice that when I do that, I notice my shoulder, across my shoulders, the muscles are quite tense, but after about 30 seconds, it starts to relax. So just breathe into that area, and you will notice that the tension does start to move away. Charles, you can put cushions between your feet, huh? Between your knees, sorry. Try with cushions between your knees, if you have. And of course, the ultimate focus of the twist is releasing tension in the spine. And we are compressing the internal organs, the stomach, so that helps with digestion issues. And also, we are opening up across the shoulders. So twists are really an all-rounder. We are getting benefits in different parts of the body. And if you want an extra stretch for your neck, turn your neck the opposite direction of your knees. Okay, so slowly bring your knees up and either hug your knees to your chest or open your knees. Remember to keep your lower back imprinted on the mat and just relaxing here for half a minute. Okay, so we're going to move now to the other side. So if you have your block, if you need your block, you're going to do the simple twist to one side. So bring your block onto the other side, or Charles, if you have a pile of things, then just bring them to the other side. And once again, we're going to be here for 4 minutes. So the girls who are doing the twist, you've now got your other leg wrapped around your leg. Shift your hips to the opposite side and then bring the hips down, either onto a block or directly onto the floor. So just bearing in mind that this is where you feel the twist most intensely. A twist to your spine. So when you feel that twist, that stretch, just try to relax into it. Consciously relax different parts of your body. And often because of gravity and the weight of our body, the tension actually slowly melts away. And you could also notice which side is perhaps has more stiffness or tension. Because you will often hear ballet dancers or athletes saying, oh, this is my good side, this is my good leg, this is my good hip. And it's often because that area either has a different bone structure or the ligaments and the muscles are connected in a different way. Strange but true. And now slowly bringing your legs to the center, bring your knees to the center, bring them towards your chest or open your knees, and let's just relax here for half a minute before we go on to the final relaxation. Okay, so now it's time to grab the blanket if you need a blanket, if you are feeling cold. If not, it's still quite warm here in Granada. Maybe it's warm where Carla is in the Azores, I'm not sure. We'll see. And I think it was sunny in Ireland. Maybe it's also sunny in the UK. So wherever you are, however you feel, just lie down, grab a pillow. Remember, grab a pillow so you can feel comfortable. And just spend the first couple of seconds just adjusting your body and feeling your body, different parts of your body relaxing into the mat. And because we've been working primarily on the spine, just bring your awareness to the top of your spine, to what we call the cervical spine, where the bones literally go into your brain. So just bring your attention to the top there and relax your neck area. Just breathe into that area. And then feel your attention slowly traveling down behind your shoulders, around the scapula, so the shoulder blades. And strangely enough, the urinary bladder meridian actually goes into the scapula. And now, noticing here how your shoulders feel. They are feeling more relaxed. And continue moving down behind your ribs. Noticing the movement of your ribs. Until we eventually reach the lower or lumbar spine. And then just check in with the pelvis. Focus on the movement of your abdomen. And notice if you feel a difference. If you feel more lubricated, less tension in that area. And just relax and breathe. So let's just start waking up the fingers and toes, making movements with the wrists and the ankles that we're working a lot with the saddle. And then bring the legs together, the arms above your head, give yourself a nice stretch. And then your arms down and slowly rock yourself up or bring yourself up slowly to a seated position. Okay, so thank you very much for joining me. I think I have to nickname this sequence. I have to call it Tough Love because it's quite intense. But I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you managed to explore and discover new things about your body. And I'd love to hear from some of you on different aspects. So